we've got one input here, just person name. It's a text field. In our JavaScript, we have an event listener on the person form. It listens for submit to happen, and then it calls the function handle submit, which we wrote. We know this event object gets passed in automatically because we didn't call handle submit ourselves, like that. It was invoked because an event occurred, and JavaScript will always pass in that event object when that's the case. And we know that a form submission, if left to its own devices, will refresh the page and nothing else will happen. So we need to prevent that default behavior. Luckily for us, that event object has a method on it, prevent default. We grab the form, which is the target of that event, the thing on which the event occurred. We grab the h1 from the document, and we set its text content to the value that was typed in, f.personname, f being the form, person name being the input. If we just did f.personname, that would actually give us the input element. So we need .value to get what we actually typed in there. So we want to add this somewhere else on the page. Rewriting the h1 doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It was just for illustration. So let's do something else. Let's add a div toward the bottom that we'll add these things to. I'm going to put it inside the section, but underneath this other div. Why a div instead of a paragraph? Both are block level elements. Most HTML elements can be categorized as either block level or inline. Block elements are things like paragraphs, things that take up the full width. They take up a line by themselves and will have some space above and below. Inline elements are things like links or an emphasis element like italics, things like that, that can occur in the middle of a line of text. Those are inline. Div is the generic block element. And unlike a paragraph, it can have other block level elements inside of it. If we want block level elements inside of something, that thing cannot be a paragraph. Paragraphs cannot have other block level elements as children. That's why I'm using a div. I'm going to need to grab this div, so I'm going to go ahead and give it an ID. I'll call it details. And I will leave it empty. So let's add the name to that div, shall we? So we don't need to grab the heading anymore. Let's grab details. What should that query selector be to grab that details div? Let's grab it by ID. The ID was details. Therefore, we know that we should type what? We could use document get element by ID, or we could use query selector, either way. If we use query selector, what do we have to put in there? The ID is details. Hash details. Yep. Yes, indeed. Then what do we want to do? What'd you do? What'd you do to add it to whatever you did? What'd you use to change the H1 or to add it to a paragraph or whatever it is you did last night? Okay, you concatenated with like plus equals? Okay, but what were you adding to? Details what? How do I start adding to what's in there? That text content would do it. So you could say plus equals whatever we get out of the form, so f.personname.value. Let's go ahead and save that to a variable. Const name equals f.personname.value. Yes, indeed.
Do you want us to edit the one that we already have of creating new
Don't want you to. Yeah, you can just comment out things if you want. Yep. Command / on a Mac, Control / select some lines. That comments and uncomments a whole block at a time. Very nice. Anybody use something other than text content? Anybody? Somebody must have. And what was G? What was G? Yeah, I chose F because form starts with F, right? Okay. Okay. Did anybody use something other than text content? Like something that starts with inner? Yep. So what's the difference? First, let's try this out and make sure it works at all. Refresh. Andrew, yay. What if I say strong plus name plus strong? If this were text content, it would put exactly what I put there. If we use innerHTML, however, refresh. Now it's bold. So with innerHTML, you can pass more than just text in there. You can actually pass HTML as a string. And then what you would end up with is, and you don't need to type this, that's something that looks like this. Right? Make sense? The inner HTML would be everything that appears between the opening and closing tags. So is text content, but only the text. Here we can actually set HTML in there. So that's one way to do it. I feel pretty good about that. I feel accomplished. So I'm going to go ahead and commit this much. We got one little piece of this done. Git add dot, take all my changes since my last commit, which are currently in the working directory. All changes since the previous commit. Use the command add to add it to the index so that it is staged to be committed. Then run commit to permanently add it to my repository and label it. Git commit, always put in a good message. Add name to details. Hooray, we did it.